Yo, welcome back to Points to Ponder, and here is the question for you. If I were to audit your attitude, are you more hopeful or hopeless? Well, come on in as we study this Sunday school lesson. The lesson this week, changes promised. The lesson focus, we need God to make us faithful. In the lesson scripture, Jeremiah 31:29-34, John 1-17. I'm going to go ahead and remind you why we are here. My job is to give you good questions so you can have good discussions so that you can grow into a great community and be all that God has called you to be. What better way to grow and be all God has called you to be than to study to show thyself approved? And I'm talking about critically think, not just read scripture, but study scripture. And that's what the questions are for in this video. Where do our questions come from? Emotions in the text, decisions in the text, responses in the text, and even this week, promises in the text. Oh my God, I'm so excited. So let me go ahead and give you the context. We've been studying Jeremiah the last couple of weeks. Jeremiah is the weeping prophet. He always has been. When people saw Jeremiah coming, they're like, oh my gosh, here comes some more bad news. But this week is kind of different. He gives hope this week. So that's the context. The people are in exile and he is giving them hope in Jeremiah chapter 31. Let's jump right on in. Listen what it says. I love verse 31. Now let's start at 29, but 31 is really key to me. The days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the people of Israel and with the people of Judah. I like those first four words. So point upon it, number one, comes from the first four words. The days are coming. So question number one, in a world that seems completely hopeless, as believers, how do we give hope? I want you to think very practically. I don't want you to say I've just prayed for people. No, in a world that seems hopeless, people are suffering economically. People are upset politically. People are struggling mentally. All these different things. How do we give them hope? We invite them to church. No, think more. How can you personally give people hope when people are feeling hopeless? Because God said in his word through Jeremiah, the days are coming. They're coming. The days are coming, but we have to sustain our hope until we get there. So point upon it, number one, how can you give hope in a hopeless world? Wow. Let's look. Point upon it, number two comes out that same verse because it says, when I will make a new covenant with the people of Israel and with the people of Judah. So wait, if you got to make a new covenant, what happened to the old one? We broke that one. What happened to the one before that? Judah broke that one. What happened to the one before that? They done broke them over and over and over again. So here's point upon it, number two. How can you personally, I want you to think, how can you personally develop God's level of grace? Woo! You thought it was going to be a promise for you, didn't you? How can you develop God's level of grace? Remember, he's establishing a new covenant because they messed up the other one and the other one and the other one. And when people mess up 1, 2, 3, 4 times, we like, I'm done. I'm out. How can you develop God's level of grace? What is your level of grace in life? How forgiving are you? Do you hold grudges? Or are you filled with grace? Woo! Point upon it, number two. I told you this lesson heavy. Days are coming. Listen what it says in verse 32. It will not be like the covenant I made with the ancestors when I took them by the hand to lead them out of Egypt, because they broke that one. Remember, I just told you they broke that one. But listen what it says. Though I was a good husband to them, declares the Lord. So here's the issue. Let me tell you what the issue was. God was good to them. They didn't appreciate it. God was good to them. They didn't appreciate it. So point to ponder, number three, is this. What are some signs that we take God's faithfulness for granted? What are some signs you take God's faithfulness for granted? Is it skipping my prayer time, skipping my devotional time? I don't even sing doing praise and worship at church. I'm just giving something. I don't say thank you to people. I don't appreciate the people that God has blessed. What are some signs you have taken God's faithfulness for granted? As a society, as a church, what are some signs we have taken God's faithfulness for granted? I'm going to tell you, if you take personally in our flesh, when people don't appreciate us, how do we act? Let that rest on you. When people don't appreciate you, how do you act? But let's think about how often do we just take God's faithfulness? We just expect things without appreciating. Oh, that's good. We just expect things without appreciating them. Wow. Let's go to the second outline, Jeremiah 31, 33, and 34. In these few verses, it's a lot. It says, this is the covenant I will make with the people of Israel after that time, declares the Lord. I will put my law in their minds, and I write it on their hearts. I will be their God. They will be my people. Verse 33, there's an overarching concept that God has to fix us. God has to fix us. So point to ponder number 4. Ooh, I'm about to get in your business right here. How do we get over the self-help phenomenon in society, in your personal life? How do we get over the self-help phenomenon? I can fix it. I ain't got no addiction. It's just me. Whenever I want to stop, I'm going to stop. I can stop whenever I want. How do we get over the self-help? All I got to do is tell myself how beautiful I am. And Scripture clearly says that he has to put his law in our mind. He has to write on our hearts. How do we get over this concept that we can fix ourselves whenever we want to? Pause and think about that. How do we get over the self-help phenomenon? Wow. But I love the second part of this. Ooh, it says, I will put my law in their minds and write it on their hearts. Point to ponder number 5. This is completely personal. When was the last time God wrote on your heart? What was that last devotional that just really stuck with you? I think we need to share those moments. When was that last prayer time that you just felt the peace of God resting on you? When was the last time God wrote on your heart? Here's the convicting part, because if you can't remember, we may have a problem. When was the last time God wrote on your heart? Look at this, and look at the verse 34, and I'm going to end. I got one more point to ponder right here. No longer will they teach their neighbor or say to one another, know the Lord, because they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest, declares the Lord. For I will forgive their wickedness. I will remember their sins no more. So let's be creative here. Point to ponder number 6. What would change about your family, your church, the world, if we all got to truly know God? What would change about your family, your church, the world, if we all came to truly know God? You know there's the second part to that point to ponder, right? So what steps can you start taking now so people can see the light in you? What would happen if the world, the family, that you start showing your light in the family, you started showing your light everywhere you went? Oh, how bright would the world be? That's how you get rid of hopelessness. I try to ask the question. You become hopeful in the God's promise, and people get hope from your light. Oh, I hope I've given you 6 points to ponder that you may think through the lesson this week. Man, remember, if you're watching this and you're using this, pause, reflect. Don't you be like, oh, wow, that was good. No, pause, reflect. Think through your answer. Write your answer. Because if you're teaching this lesson, 40-50% of the time, you need to be quiet to let people discuss and engage and wrestle with the text, the old word people used to say. And if this video has been a blessing to you, you know what I want you to do. Like, subscribe, and come back next time as we study the Sunday school lesson.